Hey everyone, today I'm taking a look at Apocryph, a throwback first-person shooter from Big Sur Games. Apocryph is a game that makes no attempt to hide its goal of making the modern, old-school shooter, even going so far as to include the tagline, an old-school shooter, in the full title. But rather than the Doom 2016 approach of taking the modern FPS and incorporating old-school design elements, Big Sur Games made something that feels more like a lost game of that era, for better in some ways and worse in others. While the game has much of the look and feel of that era with demons, gore, heavy metal, and the ability to flit around the map at breakneck speed, it unfortunately misses the mark on some of the finer details that make games like Doom and Hexen stand the test of time and become the classics they are. Apocryph starts out by dropping you outside a suitably creepy castle with a kind of Creative Commons-y sounding orchestral score in the background, and only your fists to pound on some skeletons guarding the door. There's nothing wrong with this really, but the somewhat tame first level kind of put the brakes on after getting pumped up by the trailers filled with demons being blown up by an array of magical weapons and thundering heavy metal music. Though the first level does do a good job of establishing the pattern you'll be following through the rest of the game of fighting monsters while searching for keys or mechanisms to open the way forward. Level 2 starts to feel a lot more like what was advertised. More monsters, a thoroughly hellish looking world that's fun to run and jump through, and an awesome heavy guitar soundtrack. The levels are well designed too, with little backtracking, but lots of appropriate crisscrossing as you collect keys and open new pathways, and never so maze-like that you get lost. The game nails the feeling of constant motion, which I think is essential for this kind of shooter. So while the game has the look and feel down for the most part, unfortunately it really falls down on the combat and enemy AI. Enemy attacks are mostly different varieties of running at you. Some have ranged attacks and some hit harder than others, but combat is mostly just spamming your attacks at a blob of enemies and kiting until they're all dead. Unlike something like Doom, you can't really identify specific enemies by their silhouette, and even if you could, they all just end up running towards you and congregating in a big mass, so it doesn't really matter. I never really felt that I had to switch up my tactics. Some enemies may have been weaker to certain weapons than others, but when they're all just running at you in a blob and you're spamming the fire button, trying to switch up weapons to target certain enemies doesn't really fit the flow of things. And since the AI is limited to pretty much just running at you when you get close, it kinda ruins the atmosphere when you see a bunch of demons just standing around until you show up. The lack of strategy to the combat also brings to light some other frustrations about the game. There's very little feedback when taking damage, so often in the midst of fighting a blob of enemies, I died because I wasn't really paying attention to my health and the game didn't really alert me I was near death without making me divert my attention to the UI at the bottom. This is when I realized the lack of an autosave during levels too, as I was sent back to the very beginning. There's also no level select either, so unless you make a note of saving manually at the beginning of each level on a new slot, there's no easy way to replay particular sections. Hopefully this is something that can be fixed with a patch, but at the moment the game isn't very long and doesn't have a whole lot of replayability either, so I kinda get the feeling it was more envisioned as a kind of single sitting experience anyways. That said, the devs have already responded to the short length with news of additional content coming next month, so who knows. It kinda gives the impression of a game that could have used a few more months of fine-tuning before being released with a full price tag. Apocryph definitely succeeds in feeling like an old-school shooter, but doesn't go much beyond that. There's some really good things going for it, such as the visuals, level design, and suitably empowering fast pace, and despite all of my complaints, none of them actually made me want to stop playing. I had no problem sitting down with this for several hours in my first playthrough, just enjoying the spectacle and constant stream of monsters to blast my way through. If you think those things can let you overlook the shallowness of the combat, then Apocryph might be worth it to scratch that mid-90s shooter itch. Thanks for watching. If you're looking for more indie game reviews like this one, there's lots more on my channel, and if you'd like to see more, maybe consider subscribing too, as it really helps me out a lot. Also, if you've played Apocryph or are interested in checking it out, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.